Right, so hello everyone and welcome to the Sharing Art Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter and today's episode is episode 22 of the series. And as always folks, if you're new to the podcast, it'd be much appreciated if you subscribe and leave a like and comment down below if you enjoyed today's episode once completed. And as always, I'll be including the guest artwork on the slideshow on the back. So today's guest, we've got incredible lighting artists. We've got Peter coming on the podcast today. How's it going, man?
Good, you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for coming on. Really,
Yeah, for sure. Thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. That's awesome.
Anytime. I can't wait. It's gonna be so much. There's so much I want to talk about. So much stuff I want to find out about just using artists, your journey overall, and like I said, Peter, there's like the main kind of four questions I always tailor the podcast around, Peter, and we'll take it from there.
Cool.
So everyone who's listening right now, the podcast is live on 9 other platforms alongside YouTube, such as Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and last but not least, we've got Stitcher. And as always, the one thing I've been doing over I think it's the last 10 episodes or so, I've been introducing pretty much artists, artwork, who are just anyone in general. So I always highly recommend, doesn't matter what level you are, just to share your artwork in the comments below, and I'll give you a shout out. And if you do maybe even art streams as well, that'd be great. So this week's shout outs, we've got 2. We've got Chloe Smith, who's a concept artist and streamer on Twitch. So I will include her Twitch down below in the description section. Chloe's an incredible concept artist who makes a range of different arts it's mainly character art and creature design. And the second one we've got is actually an Instagram link from Adam Edwards, who is also another character artist. So Adam works on very unique sort of stylized characters who explores a very awesome range of designs, and he's been developing his sculpting skills. I'm pretty sure he's using ZBrush, but you'll see both these two people's shoutouts on this slideshow right now, highlighted in the back if you're listening on YouTube. But the main guest, obviously the main guy we're talking about today on the episode is Peter. So thanks once again, man. I'm really looking forward to this, and let's just get into the podcast.
For sure. Let's go.
So, as always, man, the first main kind of thing, just tell us a wee bit about yourself. What do you do? Like, where do you work and so forth? And just, what got you into art?
All right. So, I'm 21 years old, and I am a junior lighting artist at Duke Games in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
We are working on a Dungeons and Dragons game with the Wizard of the Coast.
Okay, nice.
So, should I talk about my education and background?
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be cool.
Okay, cool. So about 5 months ago, I was still a student myself.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout my high school, I wanted to be a concept artist. Mm-hmm. So I was completely self-taught online for that. So 2D painting and concept and whatnot. And then I went to into fine art in college. So I was studying, how to paint and draw and life drawing, sculpting. But then I dropped out after a year because it wasn't my thing.
Okay.
Because it was clearly not concept art for games and movie and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to another college in 3D animation. So yeah, fast forward 3 years, I accepted in an internship at 2 Games, and here I am still with them.
Awesome.
Working on an awesome game.
And it's so you're saying it's 5 months you've been there now?
Yeah, 5 months ago was pretty much still a student.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Because
Yeah.
I can there's like obviously like a lot of different things when it comes to your journey, and the great thing about like I didn't realize you're only 21. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome. And the main thing about the podcast is like I've always wanted to try get on as fresh as like literally new starts as possible on the podcast, and it really I guess gives the listener a very up to date sort of insight to how things happen and stuff just in general, and the fact that you've literally just started, it's going to be really great to hear about just everything in general. And And the one of the really cool things, so one of your I think favorite artists is also one of my favorite artists. So I was looking through your 80 level page, and you were inspired by Feng Zhu.
Oh man, for sure, that guy is a legend.
The guy is incredible. I could talk about Feng Zhu for ages, man. The amount of learning from Feng Zhu. Like, obviously, I do environment art, and like you do environment art as well. In terms of you've done like a lot of modeling as well. Like in terms of like just like composition, and like you'll do that through your lighting as well.
Yeah.
Like Feng Zhu has literally provided me with like a really strong, or like he's really helped me with my foundation, if you know what I mean.
For sure, because all his videos are pretty much about how to become a better artist with the composition and colors. So for sure, in any background, I think concept art is kind of important.
Yeah.
Just to have a composition and something beautiful to look at, right?
Definitely. Because like I wish, everyone who's tuning in, before we obviously get into the main questions, make sure to go check out Peter's work. So I'll be highlighting literally right now on the whole podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, you'll be able to see on the slideshow. If you're listening on all the other platforms right now, I'll include them in all the comment sections, so you don't miss out on anything. So that's like your Anchor and so forth. But the reason why I brought up Feng Zhu is that like I can kind of see like a wee bit of the color exploration coming into your artwork as well. I'm not sure if that's inspired from him, but like you have like such amazing exploration with color, and it's one thing I would be great to talk about as well later on.
Cool. Cool, for sure.
So as always, I always have like the 4 kind of main questions I tailor the podcast around. So we'll start off with the first one. So what do you wish you learned when you were studying at university, or where you studied?
Pretty much what I didn't want to do, because when you talk to the teacher, they usually try to find what you like, and most of the answers are probably doing environment or character artists or maybe animation. So that's maybe the 3 main things. But again, there's so much other jobs that we don't know, and I just discovered some not that long ago. For example, I don't know, I'm grooming artists, the people who does the hair, or the stuff in the VFX.
Yep.
I didn't know that was a thing, and maybe I wish I could have learned a bit just to see if I liked it or not. So that's the thing. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't try, and I wish I could have in college.
Okay.
So that's one of the main thing, I guess.
Because like I think like I'm really happy you brought it up, because that's like obviously another different take to the podcast. So I think it was episode 7. So I did a podcast with a good friend of mine. His name's Alex, and Alex mentioned something to me that I've never heard of. It's pretty much similar to like the situation you've had there, and it was like obviously World of Tanks, like the game World of Tanks.
Yeah.
So basically, there is such a thing as a tank artist, and I never knew there was even such a thing.
Yeah, that's pretty odd.
Like very tailored to just one thing. So if you're listening to the podcast, sometimes there are these crazy titles that are so specific. So if you have like a passion for something really, I guess, unique, don't rule it out. Like there might actually be a spot for it. Obviously, it's a bit more harder to get something so specific. However, like these things, like they do exist, believe it or not. It's a surprise, but it's like Peter's saying, when he was at university, sometimes you're not always introduced to all these unique things, so it's great for maybe universities to start dwelling into them a wee bit more. Like I'm not sure if there's anything like, I guess, so when it comes to what you wish you learn at university, is there anything specific to portfolio maybe, or networking, or is there maybe something a bit more unique that kind of comes to mind that you think would be really beneficial as an artist for a student?
Another thing would be the background stuff during the interview, and maybe after the interview, how to negotiate your income and stuff.
Okay.
Those things I learned through just chatting with a teacher, but it wasn't taught in class.
Yep.
And maybe, I don't know,
no,
maybe
that's
more
great.
information about the interview stuff. And because my interview for my job wasn't that complicated, it was maybe a day, which took maybe an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard some interviews at bigger studios took maybe 8 hours and during 3
8 hours.
weeks. Yeah, that's
What?
crazy. Some job requires that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's mental. Gee whiz, 8 hours. That's going to be
Yes.
intense. That.
So if I ever had an interview for an 8 hours interview,
Yeah.
that would be so crazy that I wouldn't know what to do. So for sure, I'm pretty happy that my interview went pretty quick.
Yeah. No, that's a great example to bring on because to bring up because it's always I guess obviously it depends on the type of person you are, but when it comes to I guess like the whole idea of interview, there's kind of like three people when it comes to interviews. Personally, I think there's the person that's naturally quite maybe shy and quite nervous. Obviously we all feel a bit nervous before an interview, or we get like I guess the tingles or whatever you want to call it, and you feel the pressure a wee bit. So there's that kind of person who feels constant pressure, and then you've got the person who's maybe super animated, super high energetic, who's probably very talkative and stuff, and really trying to sell themselves. And and you have to kind of balance that. Try not to be too like. Obviously, it's great to show you're passionate in that, but just try and be obviously as relaxed as possible. And then I think the third's is there really a third type? I'm trying to think, but it's like when it comes to interviews, it's a very like to me personally, I think the main thing about interviews is just like not thinking about like everything as a checklist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. It has to be some sort, kind of organic and,
Yeah,
have a genuine relationship with the person who's talking to you. So
definitely.
for sure.
Like I think you just have to be like relaxed, like just be yourself, and like I understand, like it's okay if you're nervous, it's fine. That's a good sign. It shows you care. But when you like, if you're going into an interview, just like try and like slow things down and just focus on having fun. Like you should be enjoying that interview. Like I've had a few interviews myself, and I've never. Obviously it depends on your background and the type of person you are, but I've always been a person who, like, I'm going into the interview and I'm having a blast. Like I'm going in there to be myself, talk about things, not just interview related, but maybe just trying to get to know the person. It's like Peter said, like try and be organic about it, and in time, like they're not going to judge you if you're nervous and they can see that you're shy. Like they're not going to be like, oh my god, this guy's like completely shaking, or this girl's like really nervous. It's like they'll try their best to comfort you. I'm pretty certain. Like, will you agree on that, Peter? I'm pretty sure.
For sure, because, the interview, at first, most people will think that the interview is for the studio to learn about you,
Mhm.
but it's also a big thing for you to learn about them.
Yeah,
So if you don't ask question at all during the interview, that's maybe a bad sign
definitely.
already. So for sure, if you have any question during the interview, you should ask them, like
Mhm.
anything.
Like yeah, like that's like another one is, and it's something that I will keep repeating all the time of the podcast because it's my dad literally ingrained it into my head my whole life, and it's asking questions all the time. And there's no such thing as a stupid question because obviously people want to prepare, like try and find the perfect question, but when you actually get into the interview, you realize that the conversation flows in a way that's not tailored around like like they won't like they won't ask you everything that you've like practiced, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
like they'll just be themselves, and at the end of the day it's like you just have to be comfortable with yourself. Like the reason why they've got you to the interview stage is because like they already trust you. I'm pretty sure it's like a trust thing, and they already know that you got the artwork. Do you agree with the philosophy that normally when you get the interview you're guaranteed the job?
depends, I think, because bigger studios, they have, the time to actually go between a bunch of, person who applied.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, yeah, I think most of the time, if you did an art test and a phone interview and maybe an email and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then they bring you to the on-site interview, maybe 90% of the time, it's because they already want you.
Yeah,
So you just have to go through the last 10% and just make it perfect and,
definitely.
try to learn the most possible.
Awesome. No, I'm so happy you brought this up because it's like this is a great topic because it's like something completely fresh, and like I've talked about it really briefly before. So and the fact that you've literally just like you said, you've been in like for 5 months, and like you've got the ball rolling, you're doing your passion, and the fact that it's so like recent, it makes it so good. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. We could probably actually bounce that conversation onto a few other things. So obviously, like I said, what do you wish you learnt from university? So obviously, just to recap. So obviously, under maybe universities and colleges, maybe having more, I guess, experiences based around like practices on like interviews. That'd be really great. So if universities were able to maybe bring in somebody who has already been in the industry and do maybe like a test run with them, like that'd be pretty cool, just to maybe get a wee bit of flair to it in their final year, or just to give them a wee bit of comfort, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that would be
Pretty
a pretty good way to summarize that first question, Peter. So I think that would be pretty cool. So the next question, it's kind of similar. So did university teach you how to be ready for the industry?
At some point, I guess they did, but it was pretty more like if they prepared me to be socially ready more than industry ready.
Okay.
So they did taught me about a bunch of stuff about interviews, but it was more like in overall stuff, how to act as any job, but not specifically for this industry.
Yep.
So, and a big part of me being ready would be because I spend more time with the teachers outside of school and outside of classes.
Good.
So, just talk with the teacher and talk with people outside of school that are ready for the industry. So yeah, I guess they did maybe halfway prepared me to be industry ready.
Good. So when you were so this is kind of like I guess another way to kind of ask this question was, do you think when it comes to like the teaching side of things, do you think with the way you were taught, obviously it depends on like every college and every university is different, but do you think when they were teaching you, it felt very robotic or very natural, or like, do you think it felt right? Does that make sense? Like, because like a lot of people when they're teaching, they're like they'll tell you like lots of words, they'll teach you like how to say certain things, but they won't actually like put you to the right practice. Like, do you think what we were saying earlier, like maybe getting some practice about it, it'd be make it more natural?
Yeah, I mean that really depends on the teacher, I guess.
Right.
Because some teacher would rather go through the list and check all the box, but some other teacher would be just give the assignment and they would just give you a feedback afterward, which is a lot more useful than just a mark that you failed or you passed. So I mean school is school, so they do have to make marks and stuff at the end of the semester, but if you have the chance to go to a school that is solely to train you as the industry person, that would be a lot better. But I guess again that depends on the school and the teachers.
Yeah, it's like it's a balance between between the two, and I think when it comes to like the soft skills, it's the soft skills. So when it comes to soft skills, I think that's when I think maybe they should take the grading sort of system away, maybe, and just focus purely on just developing like your social skills, and just like focus on prioritizing just like having fun, being yourself, and exploring, like you said, the things that you need to learn, and obviously naturally in time you'll get better, and obviously that's the main goal. Like, because at the end of the day, when it comes to interviews, like we literally just said, if you've got an interview, it's because they've trusted your portfolio, and they're pretty much just looking at, are you the right fit and are you a nice person? So like, are you easy to work with? It sounds so cliche and so obvious, but it's such an important part. Like, if you're not easy to work with, it makes everything in the pipelines far more complicated. And Like, there's going to be so many different things about portfolio that I also want to bring up related to maybe interviews and stuff, or just lots of different things in general. But we'll be able to talk about that as we go along.
Sure.
Okay. So, actually, let's go into the fun one. So this is actually not the 2 questions, right? Let's just talk about your art in general, okay? Because,
Cool.
like, everyone who's listening, please go check this guy's artwork. I love it, man. It's like it's amazing, the artwork you've been making, and like trust me, it's super cool. So like I said to you before, so before we actually started the podcast, so one of my friends, good friends, Eddie, he showed me Peter's work, and just a random question. What made you decide to introduce the cat to every artwork that you've made? Because that is just like a stroke of genius.
Okay, so that goes a bit back in the time, because
Okay.
before I wanted to be a character artist,
Mhm.
but that just, that was maybe a few months in school. I
Okay.
just wanted to be a character artist, so I tried to make a bunch of characters. I wasn't good at all, so then I tried to become an environment artist. So I did a bunch of modeling,
Mhm.
and then as I became a lighting artist. But my love for character artists is still there,
Yep.
and having a character in the environment helps a lot for the storytelling.
Definitely.
So I guess me finding out that the cat was a free model online was kind of random, so I just took it and put in my scene
Mhm.
for the lighting. And then one of my teacher told me that I should put the cat for everything else.
Mhm.
So that became some sort of a branding, I guess,
Yeah.
for an artist. Because the most of the concept artists that I know are that are super successful,
Mhm.
they have some sort of a IP, right? Like
Yeah.
a story just for them. Well, that's also one of the small thing that my concept side that I still love became.
Mhm.
So all my projects might have a cat. Well, it should,
Yeah.
because
It should have
that's
like
my thing.
it just kind of defines your artwork.
Yeah, pretty much. So that's kind of my branding. So that's what I do to stand out in on ArtStation and
Awesome.
whatever else, right?
Yeah, because like me and my friends, like it was crazy. Like we were just like, it's so simple, but it's so amazing. Because like we
Yeah.
were literally just I think we talked about your artwork. No joke. I think we were talking for about like a good solid hour or so. And
Oh gosh.
like we were literally just like, why did no one ever think of this? Like I was like, how did you get this idea? Like it's so simple, just like putting a cat, and you're just like, it helps with the composition, helps with the story, it guides your eye straight away, and like you're just like wondering like what adventure is this guy going on?
Yeah, yeah, that's the point. That was all, in my head that went through.
Yeah.
Like the cat could have some sort of a backstory,
Hmm.
and whatever, right? Because no
Definitely.
one's gonna know, and that's my stuff
Hmm.
in the background. So yeah.
Because like it's like you can tell as well, because obviously, so you've got the cat in the scene, and the reason obviously why I want to bring up the cat is obviously the overall topic as a whole is that you're a lighting artist, and the wherever the cat is, whether it's in a walkway or whether it's in for example, what is it, sort of like it's Egyptian slash Assassin's Creed, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. One of the concept that I took from reference is
Okay.
from Assassin's Creed Origin in the desert.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So like that piece, like well, so all these different pieces. So you have like 5 different, I guess, landscapes. So you've got like the nature one with the trees. You've got like the walkway, sort of like how could I describe it? Almost sort of like what's his name, Liam Wong sort of style.
Yeah.
With the really bright, awesome colors going on, and then you've got the Assassin's Creed piece, and all these things are tailored around obviously lighting and the cat and telling this story. So when it comes to you as an artist and you're listening, try and think about how you're going to sell your piece. Not only just so for example, a great thing Peter just said was how does he make his artwork unique? So obviously it's not a necessity in terms of like it's not a requirement to have that little magic touch to make your work stand out. However, it plays such a great it makes, I don't know, just helps define you more. It helps bring out your work a lot more. Because, like I said, the first time I saw this piece, like I was amazed, and it's just because like it just has to be simple. Because Carmen, so I had Carmen on the podcast as well, and she did. I'm not sure if she was thinking the same thing as you, but she has a incredible Paris piece and it has like a fish right at the front.
Yeah.
And it's like these things, even if it's random, it works so like beautifully. It just makes sense, and it's a great touch to add, and it gives context, and it just makes you think like, why is that fish there, or why is that cat there? Where's the cat going? And when it comes to making art, a lot of people make art, for example, environment scenes. So, for example, I've just made, so I just finished this train piece, Peter.
Yeah.
And so I followed this concept art, a great passion of mine, a great artist, sorry, Mark Lee. However, if I really wanted to maybe take that to the next level, adding, like, I really wanted to add figures into it, but my computer was literally dying, man. It was like, my computer was breaking, but if I wanted to like sell that piece more, adding like a character or something better would like sell it more, like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
It's those small sort of touches. But yeah, continue on portfolio sort of things. Like, did you always kind of have this sort of art style in mind, or was there like a certain, like, because every time I see your work, there's like the lighting kind of seems very consistent in terms of it all kind of links together.
Yeah, because my first thing in my portfolio on ArtStation was the character stuff, but I just removed them.
Okay.
And then the second one is the cat from the subway station. That was my first lighting project, and from now on, then all my projects are tailored to be a lighting oriented project. So for sure, I don't think it's a a style per se, but
yeah,
I do try to focus mainly on the lighting.
Definitely.
Even though I did a bit of modeling, but the main thing that I try to showcase is definitely the lighting.
So how long have you been doing lighting? Like, what got you into lighting? Like, was it like a year ago you've been doing lighting, 2 years, or like when did it all start?
It was pretty much the last year of college, which was about maybe less than 2 years ago.
Wow, right, okay, wow, awesome.
Yeah, so for a long while I tried to become a environment artist for game, but there was always something wrong with all my scenes, which was the lighting.
Yeah.
All the lighting made all my scenes pretty much flat and not as good, because when you model something and it looks good in the viewport of the texturing software or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But when you put everything together, the lighting is really important. And all my scenes had a pretty much bad lighting because I didn't know lighting was that important, and all my environment was pretty much bad.
Okay.
And that piqued my curiosity to become, to learn more about lighting to make my scenes better. But lighting was just so much interesting than modeling for me, so that became what I want to be, lighting artist.
No, awesome. Because I was reading your so your 80 level, your article, and you said a really key, pretty much exactly what you just said there, and also Carmen said the same thing as well on the podcast, and it's like lighting makes or breaks your artwork, and
yeah, definitely.
Like for example, I'm the same thing. So like I want to, like, I'm trying to improve my lighting. I'm really trying to progress forward, and so everyone who's listening, lighting is such a crucial aspect, and I think you say on your article basically that it's like the one thing that kind of makes or breaks all when it comes to the pipeline, just overall in general, because like if you've got like a really good model like you just said there, but you can't light it well, everything kind of like it looks pointless at the end of the day. Like it's just like, well, why have you not spent the time to learn lighting?
Yeah. And it doesn't go just for the environment, even animation or VFX. if you have a super badass animation of a guy, doing a bunch of stuff,
Yeah,
but the lighting just doesn't make sense, or it can break the animation for sure.
definitely.
So a good thing is either try to make a super simple lighting for your animation or your model or whatever, or try to go really in depth and spend a lot of time on the lighting itself before putting your stuff out there.
Definitely. Awesome. Was there anything, so obviously through your so like last 2 years, has there been any main sort of go to learning materials or sources to help you as a lighting artist? Like what kind of inspired you to learn more, or like what tutorials did you use? Is there anything specific that's kind of helped you out?
Uh, the biggest thing would be just self-study.
Mm-hmm.
Find some good photos and try to replicate it in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And don't try to find something super complicated to model. Just take something super simple and either try to replicate the models the quickest possible or just straight up make cubes and light it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's mostly just self-taught.
Yeah.
And then for tutorials and resources, I would say the same thing that Carmen told you in her podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is the guy from Dice. He's a lighting artist, and he does a bunch of videos on YouTube, just to go through the process of lighting,
Okay.
which is super, super useful. It's kind of long because each video it's maybe over an hour,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he rambles a
Wow.
lot. But yeah, it's super useful to see the process that he goes through each scenes because he doesn't model. He just takes environments from other and relight all the lighting for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much a job as a lighting artist. Even at my job, that's what I do. I don't model. I just take stuff from others and light it.
Yeah. Like,
So yeah,
I,
pretty
I
much.
I think that's that's the main thing when it comes to lighting is that at the end of the day, you obviously like if you enjoy doing environment art, that's fine. However, if your goal is to be like a lighting artist, you don't need to show like incredible modeling skills. All you need to prove is that you can do the lighting, and I guess do it just at a high standard. And like Peter was saying, so Peter's like you said, he's very self-taught. Like he's done a lot of learning himself, and he's explored a lot of different things. And like for example, when you're doing, I guess shots based around color, and you want to really sell a color, then you focus on the color and how to really excel it, and what kind of artist can really maybe help you with that. For example, you've got Feng Zhu, you've got Liam Wong, you've got these two like juggernaut of artists out there. Like for example, they also are very heavy photography based. It's like Peter just said. Peter said, find good quality images and try and replicate it and try to understand it. A lot of people, when it comes to learning, is that they rely so much on tutorials rather than the actual doing. I'm pretty sure you'll agree on that, Peter.
For sure, because if you don't have the fundamentals in your head, listening to a tutorials might just go through your head and just listen to whatever and you won't understand the actual content of the tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important.
Awesome. Okay, so on to the next question. I'm not sure, obviously, since I assume you're mainly at university and college and stuff, but if you had to, so this is the big kind of debatable question. So this is the one I ask all the time. Would you recommend uni or online courses, or like what's your opinion on both? And if you had to choose one, what would you choose?
Okay, so there's no right answer, right? There's no just yes or no or what.
Yeah.
So I would say if you can afford school,
Mm-hmm.
as in you don't have to pay 20 grand or whatever to a school, art school, I mean, then yeah, don't go to school. But if you can afford it, just go because the school will teach you a lot of the soft skills,
Mm-hmm.
and you will have a bunch of networking to, that will come naturally with your friends and peers and teachers. So that's really important. But that being said, online tutorials is basically free nowadays, so you don't
Yeah.
have any excuses to not listen and check out tutorials. For example, if you ever want to be a concept artist, you should definitely check out Feng Zhu videos.
Definitely, I completely agree.
Like, if you haven't seen his videos, you're already kind of late and kind of don't have the advantage
Yeah, you're already
over
behind.
yeah, for sure, you're already behind, for sure. Like, I'm not kidding. Well, yeah, I think so, yeah. I checked all his video at least twice by now,
Brilliant.
which is a long playlist, maybe over 200 hours. And
Yeah,
even nowadays, I sometimes check out some of his videos while working, and that's so important
like
because I did learn a lot of my, colors and composition through his videos,
awesome.
and just by looking at his art. So,
Like
yeah,
he does that cool process. Like I never ever even thought about this at all until he introduced it. But it's basically when do you know when he like gathers say like 20 images and he just layers on top of each other all the time?
yeah, for sure. That's
Like
crazy.
like it's genius. And then he's like exploring the lighting and color palette through just random images. And
Yeah.
do you remember the one when he has so basically it's like he's like making like these giant fish.
Yeah, I do.
Like that one
That's
is
so cool.
that's like insane because like this like the reason why like another main reason to bring this up is because like this is like this is why lighting is everything. This is why lighting is key, and this is why like it sells composition. So like the way he like directs the fish through the
Yeah.
colors and through the light, like because I'm not sure. It's kind of like is it like it is underwater scene, isn't it, or is it actually above water? Because there's like the mini village that he has to highlight the scale. Do you remember?
I do, but he did like three concept, I think. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, but I think one of them was a flying fish with the outside.
Hmm.
So it wasn't underwater for I think.
Yeah. Because that one was no, that was insane. Because it's these different explorations and little studies that you can do to really kind of I get it's just simple, just learn. And like Peter's saying, the reason why we have the reason why we're bringing Feng Zhu up is that he's such a craftsman, and he covers everything in depth. And like he even talks about like camera techniques, like camera angles, like how to like set things up through just I guess like 3 point or just every perspective possible.
Yeah.
He talks about character arts. It's not just environment art or concept art. He talks about everything because he's been in industry so long. Like there's so much different tools available for you to utilize. So I highly recommend like checking out that because he has a school as well.
Yeah.
FCD design, Fang School Design.
Yeah, it's Feng Zhu cinema design, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So that's another great source to use. But yeah, carrying on. You were saying about obviously recommending uni or online courses. I'll just let you continue. Like whatever your thoughts are on the topic.
So for sure, online courses, I mean, you don't have any excuses unless you don't have, I know, internet.
Mhm.
But, even if you go to school, you should try to learn on your own through online courses. So for my case, at my school, we didn't learn a lot about lighting, just enough for the basic.
Mhm.
But yeah, at the same time, during school, I did learn on my own, lighting. So that's a really important part. As soon as you know what you want to specialize and to do eventually,
Yeah.
you should try to, spend a lot of time on your own to learn and not just rely on the teachers and what they learn at school, at what they teach at school.
Mhm.
So for sure, do both if
Yeah.
you can. Don't burn out though.
Like
So yeah,
that's always an important one because I think the main when it comes to online schools, like the main one is like the difference maker between if you had to choose one and the other. One's very self-disciplined orientated, which is the online school, if you know what I mean. It's
yeah,
if you're doing online learning, it comes down to you as mentally to just get the work done, and obviously the majority of universities do cost a lot of money. However, you're you're not forced to do work, but you have deadlines. You have it's more strict, as in there's more structure involved. There's more planning
yeah,
just in general. But if you need, like maybe if you're not as fortunate and you can't afford to go to university, then make sure to utilize the online resources that you've got. Right. So there's actually an interesting question that I just came up today that I wanted to ask you about, and it's actually based off your article. So you said a really great thing that I kind of like. I think a lot of people might argue it sometimes, but do you think like your portfolio wise, you should, because you said I think in your article you shouldn't include university or assignments in your portfolio?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, do you think it should all be just like personal pieces?
If you can, for sure, because if you start to put, the every assignment that you make at school, it's gonna make your portfolio really unoriginal and kind of bad, depending on how you worked on the assignments.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the teacher asks you to learn Substance Painter and do a texture shader or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You have probably, I don't know, a week for the assignment or whatever the time that they give you.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing to put a time lock on the portfolio at piece, because that's not going to show the maximum potential of what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point of the ArtStation portfolio, right? To showcase what's the best thing that you can do and not the quickest thing or the best thing you can do under an hour or two.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing to put in your portfolio.
Like the one thing I've never understood when it comes to portfolio, it's to touch on your point there, is people always think you have to make things so quick, and or like they have to like just fire out artwork. Like for example, there is literally billions. Well, not billions, but exaggerated. That's a bit too harsh, Ross. There's so many art portfolios out there, and I'm just like, why are you showing that art piece? If you know what I mean, like not trying to be harsh, but I'm just like you have this great piece here, and then right over here you have this piece that's like so generic and so like, oh, you're just like, what are you like? Why are you showing that? It's like you don't want employers to see that kind of art. Like it's not like, I'm not trying to be harsh, but you have to. The biggest critic should be yourself, and you should be able to be just brutally honest with yourself and identify what is classified as good, and it's being able to develop that. I'm not sure what you call it. It's sort of like you should be able to visualize in your, like, by just your eye, like what's good or bad. Like you have to develop that sort of understanding. Like it should be obvious, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I did heard this somewhere. I'm not sure where, but so basically you count every piece in your portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
You divide it by 2 and you subtract 2, and that's the exact number that you should have on your portfolio, the number of pieces.
Right.
So that basically just remove half of your portfolio.
Yeah.
And just the last few pieces that you still have on the portfolio should be the best.
Wait,
I don't know.
Can you say that
What?
again? So, because I think I've heard that before, but I can't remember. So, can you say the dividing thing again? Because I think I've heard of it.
So, for example, you have 10 pieces in your portfolio, right?
Okay.
Divide it by 2.
Yeah.
So you have 5, and subtract 2. You have 3.
Okay.
So in the end, you should only have 3 pieces in your portfolio.
Right.
And that's the 3 best pieces. Even if your 4th one or the 5th one is kind of okay, well, just remove it.
Yeah.
You should only have the best 3, basically.
Because like, you shouldn't have any doubt at all.
Yeah.
Like the one biggest things I've learned from interviews is I'm not sure. Obviously, there's certain things you can't say about interviews. Like I'll be careful what I say here. But so one of the main things I've heard in a lot of interviews from just like a lot of podcasts as well is sometimes you might get an interview purely just because of one art piece. Like if you've made like a great piece, like they might give you a wee bit of luck. Like they might be like, there's enough convincing information there for me to be like, that guy knows what he's doing. However, similar to what, so bringing back Peter's point there, if I have a piece beside that piece that's like showing lots of negatives, that could really, like what's the word, like cause a problem, if you know what I mean, because
Absolutely,
they might start doubting right, why is he showing that? Does he know that that piece is bad? Like, why is he showing that piece? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so because I really want to start dwelling in more to that kind of portfolio side of things, because maybe it's because it's a lot of university people who are just wanting to get their artwork out there, which I think is okay. However, when it comes to like your third and fourth year of college and university, you have to start realizing the truth and start showcasing just purely the things that you need to show.
Yeah.
So like I said, so knowing when your artwork is bad, being able to be honest with yourself and know when to delete it. Obviously, the good thing about ArtStation, you can just unpost it, so you can't show anyone. So if you want to keep it just for like a nostalgic piece, then go ahead. That's fine. You can definitely do that.
A good thing though for students that should do is maybe not have a final portfolio or a portfolio that shows what you can do, but more like a blog post or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, a Twitter or blog or Tumblr or whatever.
Yep.
So you on there you can just put whatever you want. So all your assignments and stuff that maybe you want to show off because you're proud of it because of school. But ArtStation would be really just for work portfolio.
Yep.
So if you put anything on ArtStation, that's gonna show what you can do, and that's really important as the first impression for recruiters and seniors artists.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you have to make the difference between your blog post and your actual portfolio for work.
Definitely, because I think you said the similar thing in the article. Because I keep bringing up this article because it's great. Like I said, I'll include it in the comments below. It really breaks down just not just Peter's process, but just like the truth in terms of like his best I guess information to help you just as an artist. Obviously it talks about his art piece as well, about what he did and so forth, but it highlights the reasons why he made certain decisions. And obviously when it comes to students, it's always great to see how people work and just like the reasoning behind these things. So yeah, that's a good little section we've just talked about portfolio. So awesome. Right, so this is a bit when it comes to the podcast now, I like to kind of introduce a wee bit of like your thoughts, just a bit a wee bit of randomness, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Is there anything in particular that comes to mind, just in general about art, that maybe you'd like to bring on or bring up that you think, I guess, would be beneficial to university or like studying? It's obviously it's a big question. It's okay if nothing does come into mind, but if there's anything that's maybe fresh, it'd be great to, or just any topics in general that you'd like to bring up.
Sure. I want to bring up a guy that I respect so much.
Okay, awesome.
His name is Tim Simpson.
Okay.
So do you know him?
The guy who does give me a second. Polygon Academy.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
So he wrote 3 articles that's changed my life. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Okay.
I read those articles before I had anything on my ArtStation, and after reading it, it was kind of like a breakthrough for me.
Awesome.
So his articles are extremely useful, and definitely you should read it. Anyone. It doesn't matter if you want to be VFX, environment, animation for film or game, just read it.
Okay.
That's so important. And then if you really want to become an environment artist, well, you should go further and check out his videos, because he does he
makes like the best. Like I would rate him up there as probably the, so like obviously I'm not sure how long he's been doing it, but he's probably got like the best tutorials out there at the moment. Like
For sure, yeah.
Like I know that's a lot
one,
to say,
one of
but
his things is the latest tutorials is the trim texture.
Yeah, I watched
which
that
is
too.
super important for game dev.
Yeah.
And not a lot of student knows about that.
Mhm.
So that's a big thing that you should check if you don't know about it.
Because yeah, like the trim sheet one was like it's really in depth. It's about 33 minutes long, but it covers so much, and it plays such a huge part when it comes to just efficiency. And like you said, like so many people are unaware of it. And like another one I brought up in my last podcast was photogrammetry. And like there's so many different things that when it comes to the industry trends now. Trim sheets, photogrammetry. These are the heavy hitters. These are the ones to go to. Can you please share those links to me at the end, if that's okay, man?
For sure, I would be so happy. Yeah, for sure.
Because I've not read the articles yet, and is it articles like part of 80 level or is it just his own website?
No, his own website. So he basically made one to how to motivate yourself as a student to make portfolio pieces. The other one was I think why your portfolio should be on ArtStation, and he goes a really long article that goes all over about it. And then the third one is I'm not sure. It was mostly for students for sure, but I'm not sure I don't remember what's the thing though. But
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you the links for that.
Awesome, nice one. I'm really glad you brought them up because another great topic that I've only talked about once or twice maybe on the podcast is the ArtStation challenge. So Tim really he literally highlights his full process of, I'm not sure how you describe it. What's the Chinese challenge called? The what's it called?
Was the feudal Japan thing?
Yeah. Oh, is it Japan? That's the one.
Yeah.
So he highlights his full process from start to finish, including like his high poly to low poly baking, like so his sculpting process, what it's like working in Unreal, his texture workflow from literally start to finish, and like we're both saying, make sure to go check him out. Please go to subscribe to Tim. I'll include Tim's link as well in the description below, so make sure to check that out. I'm trying to think. We've covered everything so far. That's great. Thank you very much for coming on. I'm just trying to think.
No problem, for sure.
Just trying to think if there's anything else I can maybe sneak in.
Do you have any question? Do you have any question about lighting per se? I don't know.
Oh, good, that's a good question. Right.
Yeah.
Personal questions. Let's see. Okay. When it comes to lighting, is there anything like so you said earlier? There's like kind of two main things or two main kind of approaches that you think are the best approach. So it's like trying to keep it simple. So make sure that you don't kind of lose sight of like trying to add too many lights basically. But is there anything that you can maybe talk about like workflow that might be a bit that would be helpful in terms of like how do you work?
Maybe not exactly how I work, but the mentality you should have as a lighting artist or lighting a scene is 99% of the time in games or movie, the lighting is basically makeup and doesn't make sense at all if you see the actual light where it comes from. An example would be did you see the latest teaser for the Star Wars movie?
I've not seen it. Wait, how recent is this? I've not seen this.
Maybe a month ago. It's called The Rise of the Skywalker.
I think I've seen. Wait, is that the one? Yeah, I think I have seen it, but it was such a long time ago. Like it's mainly just what's her name walking through the desert.
Yeah, exactly. So in that, you should rewatch that teaser because it's super interesting for the lighting. In the first minute of the teaser, you see the main character in the desert, and there's a spaceship coming on. And every time there's a camera cut, the sun changes direction like 180 degrees. Yeah, it doesn't make sense physically, but artistically it makes sense because it gives a better rim light. Definitely. I feel like it is better. The shadowing is not as harsh. So it's pretty weird at first because the first shot you see the sun is maybe behind her, and then there's a camera cut and the sun is basically in front of her, and then the third shot the sun is next to her. It's super weird. You should check it out.
It's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's constantly changing. So the point is, lighting is basically cheating, right? So it doesn't have to make sense at all. In games, sometimes there's a light coming from nowhere, and it doesn't need a reason. It's just because it looks good.
Do you think?
Same in.
Oh, on you go.
What? Well, no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, do you think too many people think too much about how it should work rather than how it looks?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, students at first would be, if there's a sun coming on in the window or of a
Hmm.
house or whatever, well, that's the only light because the sun is the main source of lighting.
Hmm.
But in reality, no, you shouldn't. There's maybe a sun coming in the house or whatever, but inside the house itself, if there's characters and if there's props or whatever that's important, you should try to showcase it and highlight it with other lights, even though it doesn't make sense at all.
Hmm. No,
So
that's awesome.
maybe in God of War, every time the character goes into a cave or an underpass that doesn't have the lighting from outside, it's because the sun is actually changing the direction of the lighting.
Very cool.
So the moment you go out of the cave or the underpass, you might not notice the lighting that change a lot, but the mood for sure change. And that's the point of lighting is to cheat the lighting,
Yeah,
so the player doesn't really notice it, but the mood changes.
because it's at the end of the day, it should always be about the story. Like, if you're obviously it depends. Like, if it's like something very specific, maybe you're trying to sell. However, at the end of the day, it should always be about selling the story, and it's like it's the small touches that play such a big part. It's like for example, the cat, because he's all at the end of the day, it's about selling the image, and
Yeah.
like Peter's saying, when it comes to this transitioning, they're not going to go for like they're not trying to make it as realistic as possible. Like, it doesn't have to be like a TV drama. Even in TV, like for example, Game of Thrones. Like, we could, I take it do you watch Game of Thrones?
No, sadly
Oh
not.
gosh, oh my god.
I know, right?
It's okay, it's okay. I'll forgive you. You make amazing art. You're let off.
All right, cool. Thanks.
But it's like in Game of Thrones, lighting. For example, in this season, I won't say any spoilers. It's okay. Everyone who's listening, I won't ruin it for anyone. But lighting has been literally like the one thing that's made or break a lot of shots. If that makes sense.
Oh,
And
really?
it's like really like some people have been like debating about like why is it being used and stuff, but a lot of people who maybe aren't artists maybe don't understand where they're coming from, because it's very obviously it's about selling the mood, about selling the story, and when you think of it creatively, it all makes sense. But because a lot of people are like, oh, why is maybe this shot a bit too dark, or why is this shot too dark? Like I think a lot of people just don't get it. And the reason why I brought up this point is similar to like the Star Wars one, is that at the end of the day it's about creating a compelling image, a really strong storyline, and making sure it's just visually good. Like,
Yep.
because at the end of the day it's about creating a beautiful render, a beautiful image, and hopefully everything that we've talked about when it comes to lighting, like you realize that like you don't have to understand lighting like you don't have to be like, right, this point light, it has this certain type of purpose for a bulb or whatever it is. This spotlight does this, and this is the reason why. Obviously, it's beneficial to maybe understand a wee bit about like just about the light in general. Like, it's good to have like a good foundation, I guess. However, it shouldn't take away from your creativity as an artist. You should be able to explore these different lighting methods, different techniques, different shapes. And you shouldn't have to be always too precious. So just really start exploring things. For example, like Peter was saying, he tries out these different environments, and he goes out and explores things. He tries different things. He takes different images. Like he said, he look for really good quality images. That's one of the main things I also I'm happy you brought up. You have to be able to identify as an artist what's good reference to study, because a lot of people. I'm pretty sure you'll agree. Do you think too many people just go to Google and just like sometimes like, I guess they don't understand what they're looking for?
Yeah, for sure. Because a good example would be when I was in school,
Mm-hmm.
my teacher told me, no, told the class to find a good picture of the sun, right?
Okay.
The outside sun, the sun. Most of the people that chose a picture randomly on Google
Mm-hmm.
chose a picture that had an exposure that doesn't make sense, or the color doesn't really make sense at all, because there was a bunch of filter on top of the image.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, just because the image is on Google Image, you shouldn't take it as a good reference for sure.
Yeah, you have to be able to understand how to research, and I think it is a hard one for students when they are learning off, is like, what is good reference, because obviously it takes time to understand like what's good color, what's good like you said, exposure, like all these different things. There's a lot to learn, and that's why we'll both highly recommend learning the fundamentals first. Like, you need to understand the basics before you can kind of explore these creative designs. But no, that's a great point to bring up.
That being said, though, on about that topic though, the ArtStation challenge, that's the perfect example, to not go through something like that. Because if you want to model something, well, just take a good concept that another challenge artist that did, because that concept is all made up for you. The color is there, the composition should be there, and that's a good reference for you to model afterward.
Definitely. Because at the end of the day, it's like we said, it's the lighting that you need to prioritize. Like, that's the thing, that's the juiciness that you enjoy. That's the part that you're trying to sell, and you want to get the best quality as well. Like we're saying, like, if you can get something that's already got the foundation there, like Peter's saying, you are literally sorted. Like, you just need to start focusing on the lighting. So make sure to utilize all these different things Peter's brought up. Like I said, I'll include it in the comments below, and I'll share everything. Once again, please make sure to go give him a follow on ArtStation. I'll include his Twitter as well. If you're listening as well, please make sure to like the video. That'll be much appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe. That'll be awesome. And as always, the one I always forget, Peter, is the notification bell. I keep forgetting. That thing's always I still don't understand why it's introduced, but I guess it makes sense. But please make sure to click that. We've actually got 3 podcasts this week, but believe it or not, there's a lot of podcasts coming out this week. So there's another one coming out tomorrow, and then it's going to be an interesting week. There's so much going on, and we've got a person who's worked on Endgame coming on as well. So that's going to be another cool one to come on. So make sure to check that out. But with all that said, well, I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to say, but Peter, thanks so much for coming on, man. It's been great having you on.
For sure. Thanks a lot for having me. That's
Anytime.
Awesome.
Be ready to see everything being spammed everywhere.
All right, cool.
But yeah, tune into the next video, everyone. It'll be much appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So bye for now, and thanks once again.